Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to another podcast. Here's 3 reasons why every single person on this planet should be creating content, regardless if you're an entrepreneur and you want to make more money, you got kids and you want to pass on some lessons to the next generation, or if you're just struggling to understand yourself. Stay tuned. I'll see you guys in the next video. We're at a point where it gets quickly. I want to be at the level where it's unreasonable for one human to consume all my content. Where it's like there's just so much. Like two of the words that I write down in my journal every morning when what are the words that you want to define your life? The 2 words I write are prolific and prodigious. So like I want to be prolific, I want to create just a tremendous amount of ideas and I want to share those in the world. Prodigious is actually being good at it. Right? Like I don't want to just share a lot of shit. And so that constantly forces me to evaluate how can I communicate better? How can I sharpen my ideas? How can I go through all the different parts of the process just to like make the message more effective? But those are the two guiding principles: be prolific, be prodigious, because I find the most enjoyment in creating. And so there's nothing better I can think of than to put out as much content at the absolute highest level that I possibly can. Like there's nothing I can think of that is cooler than that. Yeah. Literally. And so yeah, my body of work is pretty wild. And that's not even taking into consideration all the writing that I do on Twitter and on LinkedIn, which I think a lot of people just don't even realize. If they're on YouTube, they don't realize, okay, he does a daily video here and then he does the big videos on the main channel. But every single day, more or less, for the last 3 years, I've put out content on Twitter and LinkedIn. I just pulled all the posts that I've ever made on LinkedIn, and it totals 2.5 million words. 2.5 million words. For context, 20 books is 1.2 million. That's roughly, like, a book is about 60,000 words, so about 20 books is about 1.2 million words. So that's like 50 books worth of content on LinkedIn. Yeah. A lot of them. But it's the process. Like you make things as good as you possibly can at the time in which you're creating it. So there's things I'd go back to and I'd be like, I can make that way better. My ideas weren't fully fledged or fully flushed out, and sometimes I contradict myself too. That's the other thing, is like putting out a lot of content like that. I contradict my shit all the time because my ideas are constantly evolving and changing, and a lot of times it depends. It's like, oh, when you look at it from this angle, this is true, but when you look at it from this angle, this is also true. And what if we put on this filter and this lens, it's completely different. And I think that's actually really cool because, one of the things I really struggle with is thinking about my past. Yeah. I realized this when I was like early 30s, is that I just have a really bad memory for my childhood. I can't remember shit. I was with my brother and he's like, he remembers everything. He'll tell me things about me I completely forgot. I'm like, I don't remember that at all. It's just like out of my mind. But I trust him because he has a really good memory about things that I do remember. I'm like, oh, how do you remember that? I remember that now, but only because you jogged my memory. I don't have that. I don't naturally have a good memory for my past. And I think part of that is ADHD. Like ADHD people live so much in the present, so much in the now, that we don't do a lot of self-reflection of the past and we don't do a lot of planning for the future. So we're like these little lost Peter Pan boys, like living just in the moment. That can be both a good thing, can be a really bad thing. I've experienced both the bad side of that. But when I started realizing that I didn't have a good recollection of my past, that's when I really started going down the storytelling route, like the story Bible, where I started thinking back in my life and documenting, journaling. Okay, this little small anecdote, this little thing happened when I was 12, this one when I was 13. I just have like a list of 1,000 of these tiny little moments. Yeah. And I can reconnect the tissue now looking back, and I can tell the story of when I was 12 years old at my grandfather's ranch and I shot my sister with a BB gun. I can tell that story now from the perspective of 40-year-old Anthony remembering it. But what I can't do is I can't tell the story from the perspective of 12-year-old Anthony who lived it. And there's a lot of things that change in our memory. Like humans have incredibly unreliable memories. So like everything that I functionally remember about my past is probably wrong. Everything that you remember about your past is functionally wrong, which is like in small details and in really big details, which is why like two people, like a parent and a child, reconnect over an event when they were 6 years old. Both will have wildly different recollections, or your recollection of it is really just a reiteration of what they have told you. So you don't even remember it. You're just regurgitating what others have said about the thing, and you don't even realize that. And the same with like, and there's a lot of research that shows this, that like even those things that you are just so certain, the light bulb, that what they call like light bulb moments in life, where something really big and traumatic happened. Most people, if you ask them, hey, where were you when 9/11 happened? Or you're so young, you might not even know what that is. Yeah, that was a really big traumatic thing that happened to people my age. Or where were you when COVID hit? Where were you when you first heard about Donald Trump getting assassinated, right? Donald Trump has not been assassinated as of the recording of this video. So if he is assassinated sometime here in the near future, then I'm going to look like fucking Nostradamus. Anywho, but everybody has these like flashbulb moments, I think is what they're called, flashbulb, where it's like, it's just so imprinted on your brain. Like, I can remember exactly where I was when my dad came home and blah, 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 did this thing, right? Well, the research shows that, no, people are full of shit. Like, they don't remember those things. Like, the more confident they are in the quality of the memory, the more likely it is to be wrong. So the more confident you are, the more likely you are to be wrong, which is wild. And so like the human brain is very, very unreliable. All that's to say is, so when I was in my 30s and I started thinking about my past and how I couldn't really remember much, and also knowing what I know about neuropsychology and recognizing that like my recollection of the past is probably also wrong, then I decided, well, the best I could do then is to document it in real time. So then I started journaling a lot, and then years later I started creating content. And in a lot of ways, like this podcast is a way for me to create this running documentary. I could look back. I could say like, what was I actually thinking? Was this as big of a deal to me back then? And I can go back and I can watch videos. I can read what I was writing at the time. But like, actually, none of my content even talks about any of this stuff. I'd never even journaled about it. Like, this was not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, right? So like, it's just. And I think I was walking with this gentleman the other day. He emailed me. He actually he watches the podcast and he lives in the building. Awesome guy. And I was talking about how I think one of the greatest gifts you can give, not just to yourself, but to your children and to future generations, is a library of content. Yeah. Creating, like documenting. It doesn't have to be every day like this. It could be once a month. It could be once a quarter. It could be once a year. It could be whatever. Like, just sit down once a year and just create a video that's like 60 minutes long with like, here's my big thoughts from this year. Here's the big events that happened that really affected me. Here's the message, the lessons that I want to pass on. I would love to be able to go back and see my dad when he was 22 or 25 and like see how he thought about the world and hear his lessons and his stories and have a container for that. And I think that's one of the really cool things that the world gives us the opportunity to do now, is to pass on this legacy of knowledge and experience so it doesn't disappear with you. So when you die, your stories live on. And the second benefit of that, because that's like on a long enough time frame, everybody's going to forget about you anyway. Like the world is going to have so much content that like nobody's going to ever go back and read about your life, like most likely. But the secondary benefit of it is that like you get to understand yourself so much better by creating this content. And this is first and foremost like a forcing function for me to sit down a couple times a week and actually wrestle with, what do you think on this thing, and can you express it, and like what are the stories that you can tell around it. And that has been one of the most enjoyable things. One of the reasons why I don't really care to like, I have never historically pushed this podcast in particular super hard, right? Like it has never been about that, but I mean, people are resonating, they get value out of it, so that's awesome. But everybody should create content. And then if you have a business, obviously it'll make you a lot more money. So like, it's a win-win-win. What are you guys doing? Go make money. Tell your story. Go create content.